Okay, so welcome to our video presentation and thank you for watching. My name is Linke and we're going to discuss the key points of two papers related to knowledge sharing networks in order to be able to answer the core question related to this week's material. The core question is, what is the role of the network structure for managing learning and competition among suppliers? Now, first I will start by discussing the key points of the first article by Daira Nobioka, and then Leon will continue with the second paper by Wilhelm. Lastly, Niels will link those two articles with each other and will provide an answer to the core question. Well, Daira Nobioka tried to find the general key routines that lead to an efficient knowledge transfer within a knowledge sharing network by discussing a case study of Toyota. Well, in creating a knowledge sharing network, there are three dilemmas that one has to acknowledge. The first dilemma would be to motivate all the members of the network to participate actively and to openly share their knowledge with other suppliers. The second dilemma would be to prevent free riding behavior, since members of the network might be inclined to only want the benefits of the shared knowledge from the other suppliers without wanting to share any of their own knowledge. The third dilemma is to ensure that there is an efficient transfer of knowledge, both of the explicit and of the tacit knowledge. The network works mainly in ensuring the efficient transfer of the highly codifiable tacit know-how. Toyota has the four sharing routines that will lead to a solving of those three dilemmas. The first routine discussed is the supplier associations, where suppliers will meet each other on a regular basis in order to share information with each other. The second routine discussed is that one of the consulting teams. Those are provided by the hub firm to assess, improve production processes of suppliers. The third sharing routine is the voluntary learning teams. Those are assessed voluntarily. Suppliers hence can choose whether they want to cooperate in those teams or not to ensure a more deep and profound learning system. The fourth sharing routine discussed is that of the inter-firm employee transfers. That means that from the hub firm, employees are going to work on a temporary basis in supplier firms to share their own personal knowledge. Well, those are the four solutions that Toyota created in order to make an efficient knowledge sharing network. An efficient network will hence lead to enhanced productivity, increased efficiency, lower costs, and finally an overall sustainable competitive advantage. Now Leon will discuss the key points of the second paper by Wilhelm.
Next, I will discuss the paper of Wilhelm. She had an in-depth research based on the research of Daira Nobioka. First, she focused on the supplier associations, the supplier consultancy groups, and the supplier learning groups. Three of the four network sharing routines that Daira Nobioka indicated. She also linked these three associations with orders of transparency. The first order of transparency is associated with the supplier association, and this is that suppliers meet on a really general level and share some minor information with each other. Second, there's the supplier consultancy. This is provided by the hub firm. In our case, it's Toyota. And in the Wilhelm, the interrelated cases are also Nissan and other suppliers as BMW. The second order of transparency is that the consultants go to the firms and they will learn from each other and from other suppliers how to increase the efficiency of performance. And all the monthly, all the suppliers are benchmarked with each other, so you learn about competitors. And lastly, the third order of transparency is the supplier learning groups. And this is voluntarily for the suppliers. They can go in learning groups and together improve the knowledge within the network. The main contributions of Wilhelm are that she used a concept of horizontal supplier relationships instead of the buyer-supplier relationships. She looked at how suppliers among each other interrelate. Next, the second contribution is the distinction between buyer and supplier initiated supplier-supplier relations. So she focused on the buyer initiated supplier-supplier relationships. And the third is that she derived the implications for managing a horizontal supply chain relation network. So not only on the benefits of the network, but also the implications that can occur when you are all together in a network. So lastly, Niels will connect the two papers and provide you with the links between the two papers, and he will provide an answer to our central question of this week.
So the final section of this presentation, the link between the two articles. Well, the main link between the two articles is, of course, Toyota is the main subject of both case studies. And in both case studies, the knowledge sharing routines are examined. However, Dyer and Nobioka, they focus on the relationship between the buyer, which in this case is Toyota, and their suppliers, whereas Wilhelm focuses on the supplier-supplier relationship. And she mentions that there can actually, instead of being a cooperation within this chain, there can also be competition, and that this is a possible negative aspect of this knowledge sharing routine. A further difference in the papers is that Wilhelm also uses for other car manufacturers to compare the Toyota case with, which is not done by Dyer and Nobioka. Then we move on to the answer to the central research question. The central research question was, what is the role of the network structure for managing learning and competition among suppliers? Well, we summarized our answer to this question. You can actually read the answer with me. The network structure may lead to a competitive advantage if the managing hub firm, which in both cases would be Toyota, supports the learning process among suppliers, while the knowledge gained through the network needs to outweigh the benefits for suppliers of keeping knowledge internally. So the suppliers must perceive that their possible spillover effects will be less than what they can gain by working together in the knowledge sharing chain.
Well, lastly, I want to provide you with the concluding remarks regarding the case study that Wilhelm conducted. This is regarding the numbers for the benchmarking that the supplier companies had to provide. From the case study, it showed that in Japanese, they are far more open in providing the numbers, and they are having more weight to the numbers and to the benchmarking. While in Germany, for example, with BMW, the suppliers of to the manufacturer BMW, they are a little bit reluctant in presenting their results and their performance measures. And regarding the outcomes of the benchmark, they're a little bit skeptic of how BMW got to these final results, because they think it's a science on its own to calculate these results and these benchmarking lists. So that's a difference in the opinion about Japanese firms and the German firms, how the benchmarking is done. This was the last conclusion. We would really like to thank you for watching our video presentation. You can't ask her any questions now, so when you see us in class and you have a question, please ask it to us. Thank you.